start the recording in a short prayer to spiritual master, and then we'll go and do the first. We'll go and do the 12th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita as part of the chant. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Welcome once again, dear devotees, to our class on the Bhagavatam today. But we'll do our chant first by reading one chapter from the Bhagavad Gita, while we are being joined by Vijay Lakshmi Mataji, Himlata Mataji, and Dilepai Patel Prabhu on Facebook. Nanbat Pranams. And if you can confirm, if someone can confirm to me that they are able to see
Yes.
chapter 12. And
Yes, Mataji.
there you go. Please read 2 verses each. Starting with Vindhyavali Mataji, is it?
Hare Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Chapter 12, Devotional Service. Text 1. Arjuna inquired, which are considered to be more perfect? Those who are always properly engaged in your devotional service, or those who worship the impersonal Brahman, the unmanifested? Text 2. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, those who fix their minds on my personal form and are always engaged in worshipping me with great and transcendental faith are considered by me to be most perfect. Hare Krishna. Varshana Mataji. Varshana Mataji.
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Text 3 and 4. But those who fully worship the unmanifested, that which lies beyond the perception of the senses, the all-pervading, inconceivable, unchanging, fixed, and immovable, the impersonal conception of the absolute truth, by controlling the various senses and being equally disposed to everyone, such persons engaged in the welfare of all at last achieve me. Text 5. For those whose minds are attached to the unmanifested, impersonal nature of the Supreme, advancement is very troublesome. To make progress in that discipline is very difficult for those who are embodied. Hare Krishna.
Text 6 and 7. But those who worship me, giving up all their activities unto me and being devoted to me without deviation, engaged in devotional service and always meditating upon me, having fixed their minds upon me, O son of Pritha, for them I am the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death. Text 8. Just fix your mind upon me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and engage all your intelligence in me. Thus you will live in me always without a doubt.
Text 9. My dear Arjuna, O winner of wealth, if you cannot fix your mind upon me without deviation, then follow the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga. In this way, develop a desire to attain me. If you cannot practice the regulations of Bhakti Yoga, then just try to work for me. Because by working for me, you will come to the perfect stage. Hare Krishna. Aruni Mataji.
Can you scroll up, please? Yeah. Text 11. If, however, you're unable to work in this consciousness of me, then try to act, giving up all results of your work, and try to be self-situated. Text 12. If you cannot take to this practice, then engage yourself in the cultivation of knowledge. Better than knowledge, however, is meditation, and better than meditation is renunciation of the fruits of action. For by such renunciation, one can attain peace of mind. Is it Sonia Mataji?
Okay, thank you. Hare Krishna. One who is not envious, but is a kind friend to all living entities, who does not think himself a proprietor and is free from false ego, who is equal both in happiness and distress, who is tolerant, always satisfied, self-controlled, and engaged in devotional service with determination, his mind and intelligence fixed on me. Such a devotee of mine is very dear to me. Text 50. He by whom no one is put into difficulty and who is not disturbed by anyone, who is poised in happiness and distress, fear and anxiety is very dear to me. Hare Krishna.
Text 16. My devotee who is not dependent on the ordinary course of activities, who is pure, expert, without cares, free from all pains, and not striving for some results, is very dear to me. Text 17. One who neither rejoices nor grieves, who neither laments nor desires, and who renounces both auspicious and inauspicious things. Such a devotee is very dear to me. Hare Krishna. Varshana Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, text 18 and 19. One who is equal to friends and enemies, who is equipoised in honor and dishonor, heat and cold, happiness and distress, fame and infamy, who is always free from contaminating association, always silent and satisfied with anything, who doesn't care for any residence, who is fixed in knowledge and who is engaged in devotional service, such a person is very dear to me. Text 20. Those who follow this imperishable path of devotional service and who completely engage themselves with faith, making me the supreme goal, are very, very dear to me. Hare Krishna.
Dandavat Pranams. Okay, so we've done the chapter of Bhagavad Gita today. Any quick points, few points before we go to Bhagavatam? Because this is a Bhagavatam class, I wanted to spend more time on Bhagavatam.
Mataji, text 10. Abhyasepi asamattosi. Mat karma paramo bhava. Madartam api karmani kurvam siddhim avapyasi. So that is, if you cannot practice the regulations of Bhakti Yoga, then just to try to work for me. What is that work for me?
We discussed that, right?
We
2 days ago. In the class, right? You were there in the class, no?
Yeah, I was there.
So can anybody tell us? What does it mean?
Is that devotional service?
What does it mean working for Krishna? All that is devotional service. This chapter is devotional service. So whatever Krishna is saying is devotional service. But what does it exactly mean, that verse?
Working for Krishna means working for devotees also is working for Krishna, right?
Okay, yes. And what else does it mean to work for Krishna? I'm surprised, Mataji, you are asking this question. Because you are the one who works the most for Krishna.
Devotional service, that's what I thought, Mataji. Prasadam and then chanting and then...
You have to remember this chapter...
Shravanam Kirtanam.
Oh, yeah, hold on. This chapter is devotional service. So everything that is written in this chapter is devotional service.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you different ways in which you can do devotional service, right? So what is the topmost devotional service that he said? What was the highest that he said that you should do?
Shravanam Kirtanam. That's all.
No, he did not say Shravanam Kirtanam in this.
No.
What did he say?
Serving the devotees of the Lord.
Where did he say
serving the devotees?
He did not say serving the devotees.
Bhakti Yoga.
No,
Bhakti Yoga is the name of the chapter. What did he say was the highest, right? You cannot do this, then do this. If you can do this, if you cannot do this,
in the mind.
Sympathetic to the...
Taiwa is going on right now, Mataji.
Huh?
Propagation.
It's like Viva is going
Krishna
No, the
consciousness.
highest form is to
Mataji,
the highest form.
propagating
Highest way is
Krishna
to fix his
consciousness.
Okay,
form.
okay, let Aruni speak. Okay, tell us.
The highest way is to fix his form in your mind.
Yes. Always think about me.
But I do that. I do
Mataji,
that.
Mataji, the question is not whether you do it or not, right? We are trying to answer your
But
question.
how I forgot. How I forgot.
Yeah, you have to, that is what it is. You have to focus your mind, right? So that is what Krishna said, Mayeva mana adhasva, that is the highest form, as Aruni Mataji said.
Ooh, yeah.
And then,
Thank you, Aruni Mataji.
yeah, if you cannot do
You're
that,
welcome.
yeah, you cannot do that, then go chop vegetables in the temple. Go clean the temple, go wash the temple, or go serve a devotee, right? Like that. That is what that
Yep.
verse means.
I always
I
think
think
of
we
his
went over
lotus
that.
feet and
Yeah.
everything, but I'm not able to express.
Yes. So
Mataji.
you have to listen and then have a quiet mind, and then it will come. It will come. And you are
Thank you.
practicing. You're practicing. And so here's the thing, when he said about working for him, he also said that by working for him, the fact that you're working for somebody who's transcendental, right? The fact that you're working for somebody who's transcendental, you will get the capability. You will progress to the next stage. It will happen to you, right? So if you can't do it, if you can't focus your mind on Krishna, go chop the vegetables, go clean the bathroom in the temple. You'll be very surprised at the changes that will happen, and they are imperceptible changes. You might not realize that they are happening, but they are happening, right? Like during the Kartik, all of you are doing some extra thing, right? It doesn't, we might not notice it on a day-to-day basis, but at the end of Kartik, you realize like, wow, yeah, for one full month, I went without sweets. I'm capable of doing that, things like that, right? Or for one full month, I woke up an hour extra or chanted extra like that. So these changes will happen, and that is the promise of devotional service. Sarv dharman parityajya mamekam
Mamekam
sharanam.
sarvaja hamta sarvapapabhyam mokshishyam.
Yeah, so you have to
I
live
love
those,
that sloka.
right. So loving is one thing, memorizing verses is another thing, and the third thing is to live those verses, right? You have to live, and that is what makes Bhagavad Gita the manual of your life. Until and unless you don't apply those verses, then there's no point of that manual, right?
That's true.
Like with the computer, you get a manual. With the printer, you get a manual. With the food processor, you get a manual, right? With the iPhone, you get a manual. So you have opened that and you read it and then you apply it to the device. Similarly, Bhagavad Gita is a manual for ourselves. So we have to apply it in our life.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Anything
Thank you,
else?
Mataji,
You're welcome.
for
Anything else?
getting it back. I won't ask anymore.
Fill
I'll
in
try to
us,
memorize.
Sirmani. Okay, yeah. What else is there? And Stuti Priya has joined us on Facebook, and I'm pretty sure she'll join us on Zoom soon. She can't resist it. Okay. Anything else before we go to Bhagavatam?
Yes, Madhuri, I have a reflection.
Okay.
I was just thinking that when Krishna says that it is very hard to focus on the impersonal form in this embodied, when we are embodied souls, and I was thinking, I mean, that is so true, because even with Krishna's form and such beautiful pastimes, we still get carried away by the material energy. How
That's
difficult
true.
it would be if there is no form. How will we even like focus our mind? So I feel blessed that I mean, Krishna brought me to this Krishna consciousness where I can focus on the form, learn to focus on the form.
Very nice. Very nice reflection. Yeah. And then at one point in time, Krishna, people had talked, where his disciples were asking Prabhupada, and they said, Prabhupada, Maya is very strong. So Prabhupada said, Maya is not very strong. We are very weak. So it's not that just Maya carries us away, because, Maya is not able to carry away also. Some people it's not able to carry away, right? Haridas Thakur, she could not carry away. Vishwamitra, she could carry away, right? So those two are giving us examples of, what it means to be strong against Maya. So we have to be strong. And the reason we get carried away by Maya is because of desires. Our own desires are there. They are subtle, but they are there, and they will raise their ugly head every now and then. And so we have to curb those desires. And devotional service is one of the way. By engaging all your senses in Krishna, then you subdue your desires to engage your senses in your own satisfaction. And that is why abhyas is good, right? If you can't put your mind on Krishna all the time, do something. Engage all your hand, feet, eyes, everything in doing something for Krishna. So that purification is going to happen. So Maya is yeah, is Maya is there. She is strong, but we are inherently stronger than Maya. We just don't want to be stronger than her. And it's interesting. And then Srimad Bhagavatam, there's a fifth canto. There's a nice last chapter, I think 26th chapter. It gives a description of the hellish planets, and it is so mind-boggling to hear about the kind of punishments that people get. And one would think that you spent like 100 years maximum here doing something, and you might not have sinned all the 100 years, might have done some activities maybe for 10 years of the life, but the duration for which the punishment there is meted out is like thousands of years, if not a million years, like that. With thousands of years people undergo that. And it's torturous. Some of the punishments are torturous, but the fact is that after the punishment is over, we come back to this world again and we start doing the same thing again. So that is the sad part. And this is what Yudhishthir had also asked, that, what is the deal about prayaschit, that you atone for your sins and all that? Because even if you do the prayaschit, he said kinkareva socharat, right? It says it's like a bathing of an elephant. The elephant goes, takes shower in the river, gets out of the river, and what's the first thing it does? It extends its trunk,
Sand.
picks up some dust, and covers its whole body like
Yes.
that. It's like, what was the use of that? So similarly, all these atonements and all that, they're of no use and no consequence. What needs to be done is you have to go to the root cause, right? Like if a patient has got a fever, and you go, so how do you reduce a fever? You can take a glass, put it in water, and you can soak the you can touch the body with that, and the temperature will go down. And guess what? After half an hour, the temperature will go up again, because you have just addressed the symptoms of it. You have not addressed the root cause. So to find out the root cause, then you have to go deeper. You have to go to a doctor. They will tell you that, oh, this is happening because there is an infection somewhere in the stomach or somewhere in the body, and because of that, the temperature is high. So now the thing moves from just reducing the temperature to the solution goes to fighting whatever that infection is inside, right? And so they'll give you medicines. When that fights, then the fever automatically goes away. So similarly here also, what we have to do, we have to fight this disease that we have of enjoying material things. And as long as that disease is there, doesn't matter how much punishments anybody can give us, right? We will forget and we want to indulge in that again. And that is where again and again and again and again, every day I say that it is so important for us to preach this thing and tell this thing to others, to young kids, to old, and to infants, and those who are not yet born. To all of them we have to preach the message of the Lord.
Mataji, when we come back to this world again,
Mm.
like you said, when we have this thing will come back again. So how will we remember again and not to do those bad things?
Wow. So
Maya.
yeah. So when you are suffering those sins, right? When you're suffering those punishments, right? It's all getting registered in the mind, right? So in the mind, there is a registration that, all right, so you became the president of a country and you did not rule the country nicely. So because of that, you went there and you had um, you suffered so much. It's all registered in the brain. But our desires are so much more stronger, and it happens to people that they have an ice cream. Very simple example from our day-to-day life. They have an ice cream, and the sugar went up, and the doctor said, no, don't do that, don't eat, it is wrong. And we are in good behavior, and then 2 years later we start eating ice cream again. Why do we do that? Is it not in the mind? Is it not in the brain? So that brings us to chapter 15 of Bhagavad Gita, 15.15. Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishto matta smritir jnanam apohanam cha. Apohanam means from me also comes forgetfulness. So Krishna will make you forget. Why he will make you forget? Because you have the desire that you want to fulfill. Until and unless the desire is fulfilled, in any case, you're not going to take to Krishna consciousness unless you replace the desire by something which is much more superior, right? Like that. So We remember, it is there etched, right? And matta smritiv. So he says, I will also bring the remembrance also. So I will give you forgetfulness, I'll give you remembrance also. So then if you
He
surrender,
gives as well.
he gives us both. So if you surrender to Krishna, he will also make you remember and not forget it. He make you remember that you remember that there's something wrong, right? Something, it'll be a vague thing in your head that, I should not do it because I have a queasy feeling. Why? Because, in the previous birth, in the hellish planet, we underwent that. Or he can make you forget it also so that you can
Thank
indulge
you.
further like that. Yeah. All right.
Like I
Okay. Any
forgot
other
today.
questions?
Hare,
Yeah.
Hare, Hare Krishna, Mataji. Mataji, I want to tell you something which happened to me yesterday at night. Uh, you see, in my thoughts, it came. I was very, very disturbed yesterday, and it was due to the um, uh, association of somebody whose messages were troubling me a lot. And I slept in that, you see, but I sat down, as you have told, to pray before you go to bed. And I always do that, and it has become my habit. And at night, Mataji, it came to my senses that Lord has told you to leave such associations which trouble in your bhakti. And Mataji, I did that. I did that. And Mataji, I'm so relieved and so happy and feeling, yes, once for all, it is better to leave that association and remain peaceful in your life, in your bhakti, because it becomes a obstacle in your life. Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Very nice. Very nice. Right? And I'll just jump on one comment that you made, and this was like somebody's texts were disturbing you. Don't let others control your life. You have a choice of switching them off. You have a choice of deleting them from your contact list. You have a whole lot of choices there. You don't have to stay with people. Don't go to have to go and read their messages. You don't have to associate. Asat Sanga Tyaga E Vaishnavachar. Right? Leave all that. And you did that, which is a very good thing. Congratulations. Because we all saw you were very upset yesterday. And I'm glad that you took to the right path today or last night. Yeah. Yeah. So this is known as
Thank you, Mataji.
deliberate.
It's all your guidance. And
Yeah. So this is deliberate use of intelligence. Dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mamapi antite. So this Krishna is saying that I will give you
yeah,
the intelligence. And this is how he gives you the intelligence. There are some, after suffering for some time, at least he gave the intelligence. That suffering could have continued for 10 years. That one person could have bothered, text messages could have bothered you forever. Till the last time when we are about to die, we are still thinking about that person and the messages. Okay. So good.
yes, Mataji.
Very good. Okay, so on that note, we
Thank
are
you.
ready to move to Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudiraye. Okay, so will be reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, and we are doing first canto. We are on chapter number 8 now, which are prayers of Queen Kunti. We haven't yet reached her precise prayers. We are just talking about after the Mahabharat war, what all were the things which were happening after Ashwathama was suitably punished. There are a few verses there, maybe 10 more verses till we come to Queen Kunti's famous prayers in this chapter. Okay, so whose turn is it to read? And one request that we might have a lot of reading to do. One request is that Neeral Prabhu painstakingly creates the reading order. Okay. And when she creates the reading order, I just have a request that you be cognizant of not only the person who's going to read after you, you also be careful about who you are reading after. So that the moment the baton is passed to you, then there should not be any fumbling, there should not be any silences, there should not be any call out on where are you, Mataji, where are you, and what happened. You just, as soon as your name is called, the previous person stops reading, you just continue, right? That way, we'll be able to use more of our precious time in doing Krishna Katha. All right? Having said that,
Before you get started, Priyanka Mataji, would you like to get added in the order?
she said
No,
no.
sorry, Mataji. I won't be able to.
Said no.
Sorry,
Yeah,
I probably missed it.
yeah, she said that to Niral Prabhu.
Okay,
No problem.
sorry.
Yeah. Anybody else is there new that we are missing? And if not, then next in line can please start reading. And we are going to read text number 6. And am I sharing that with you?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. And the first word is a little bit difficult. You can see it's a bigger word, right? So what I'll do is I'll switch the order a little bit. The person who's going now should first read the synonym so that we are familiar with the words, and then the next person can go and do the Sanskrit, and then after that we'll do the translation. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so who's there? Who's going
It's my
next?
turn, I think. Yeah.
All right, Hupamaladi Mataji. Yeah.
Yaja Yitva, by performing Ashwamedhaye yagna in which a horse is sacrificed, Tam, him, King Yudhishthir, Tribhihi, three, Uttama, best, Kalpakya, supplied with proper ingredients and performed by able priests, Tat, that, Yasaha, fame, Pavanam, virtuous, Dikshu, all directions, Satamanyo, Indra, who performed 100 such sacrifices, Eva, like, Atanot, spread.
Very nice.
Niral Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. I will read since Prabhu is not here.
Prabhu, better half of reading.
Yajyatriya Ashwamedhastam Tabir Uttama Kalpakaha
Kai.
Tad Kalpa
Kalpa.
Okay.
Kai.
Kai Kalpakai.
You see this?
Yeah,
Kalpa.
Kalpakai.
Yeah. Kai.
Tadyasha Pavanam Dikshu
Pavanam, pavanam,
Manyor
Shatan.
Ivanot. Was that okay, Mataji?
Yes, very nice. Very nice. Very nice. So you see, breaking it down helps a little bit, right? Just to be familiar and yada jitva ashwamedhai, right? Like that.
Yeah.
All right. So whose turn is it next?
Correct me, Mataji, if I'm wrong.
I think it's my turn.
All right, Arunimati.
So do I read the synonyms again or the
No,
translation?
just the translation.
Lord Sri Krishna caused three well-performed Ashvamedha yajnas, horse sacrifices, to be conducted by Maharaja Yudhishthira, and thus caused his virtuous fame to be glorified in all directions, like that of Indra, who had performed 100 such sacrifices. Sonia Mataji.
Hare Krishna. This is something like the preface to performing Ashwamedha Yagna by Maharaj Yudhishthira. Comparison of Maharaj Yudhishthira to the king of heaven is significant. The king of heaven is 1,000 and thousands of times greater than Maharaj Yudhishthira in opulence. Yet the fame of Maharaj Yudhishthira was not less. The reason is that Maharaja Yudhishthira was a pure devotee of the Lord, and by his grace only was the king Yudhishthira on the level of the king of heaven, even though he performed only 3 yajnas, whereas king of the heaven performed hundreds. That is the prerogative of the devotee of the Lord. The Lord is equal to everyone, but devotee of the Lord is more glorified because he's always in touch with the all great. The sun rays are equally distributed, but still there are some places which are always dark. This is not due to the sun, but due to the receptive power. Similarly, those who are 100% devotees of the Lord get the full-fledged mercy of the Lord, which is always equally distributed everywhere. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay, reflection time.
Mataji, the
Yes,
last one, last sentence, that the Lord is like the sun, but some places don't get any light because of them, not because of the Lord.
And the problem is not due to the sun, but because of, what does it say?
Receptive power.
Receptive
Receptive
power.
power.
Receptive
Right.
power.
Right. For example, even if you take it, even if you, and that's a very good point that you all caught up, that even if you take right now, right, there are so many waves in the air right now. People are broadcasting all kinds of things around us. Are we receiving all that? No. We are just receiving on Zoom, whatever it is on Zoom, right? Why? Because my receptive power is not like that. I can't receive other um, vibrations that are around me, although they are there, right? So it really depends on the receptive power. How much can we receive? And now here the thing is that all souls are equal, so all souls have got the same power to receive. But we have layers on ourselves, avanatmika. We have curtains that we have put on ourselves because of which you cannot see. And anything can stop. So if you are not able to get the sun, the problem is not with the sun. If the clouds come and cover the sun, it is our own foolishness that we say that the sun got covered. The sun is not covered. It's actually the clouds are covering your eyes. And because of that, you're not able to see the sun like that, right? And it doesn't take much to cover your eyes. How much does it take for you to stop seeing everything, right? How much of how much of an obstacle do you need to stop seeing? You just have to close your eyes, right? Only this much you need to stop seeing things. And so that is the seeing the physical seeing. But then the other seeing is also to understand the reality. So sometimes when you understand things, then also you use the word seeing, right? For example, when somebody says, "Oh, I thought this was going to happen, like, why did you do that?" And the other person says, "Well, this has happened and that's why I did this." And then the first person says, "I see." What is the meaning of that? I see. What are you seeing? Right? So sometimes when you understand certain things, then also you say, I see. So there are two kinds of seeing which are there. One is the physical seeing, and another is you seeing,
Mentally.
intellectually, mentally, and you see that like that, right? So most of us don't see. Paschan api na paschati. Or we see it and still we don't see it. Dekhkar bhi nahi dekha. Right? You are seeing all that, but we still don't see that. Like which is what Yudhishthir says, that the biggest wonder in the world is that we see people dying around us, and but somehow we think that we will not die. We don't even think about our death, which we should be thinking actually pretty seriously, and we don't do that. So paschana pina paschana. So it's all because of our seeing power. How much are we able to see? And that is where the spiritual master comes in. And what does the spiritual master do? I told you in the beginning of the class.
Open our eyes, yes.
In your eyes, exactly. Chakshur unmilitam yena. He opens the eyes, the inner eyes he will open, right? So that you can see the real meaning behind the things. And it's very interesting that in the Srimad Bhagavatam, it says that, Srimad Bhagavatam is a book that, helps you understand the reality, distinguish between reality and illusion, right? So to distinguish between reality, so it gives you the knowledge which distinguishes between the reality and the illusion, but there is more, because even in our mundane life, sometimes we distinguish between reality and illusion. For example, there could be an old lady, very, very rich, and she's widowed. And then a young man comes in her life and tells her how beautiful she is, flatters her, and she thinks that he really loves me, right? Whereas the young man is only after her money and is waiting for her to die. They'll get married and just waiting to inherit that money from her. So um, the lady is an illusion. And so sometimes another person can give her advice or open her eyes to the reality and say, hey, this guy is just, here to just, um, sop off all the money from you. So Bhagavatam is not telling you those kind of things. Not, there are no stories like that. Bhagavatam is giving you information. Bhagavatam is giving you information to distinguish reality and illusion. And but the knowledge that the Bhagavatam gives is for the welfare of all. All means all. Simple. All means all. And there are no exceptions. There's nobody who cannot benefit from the information which is in the Bhagavatam. It is there for the benefit of everybody. And so we should be seeking the knowledge like that, you know. In the first case, also, somebody gave knowledge to the old lady saying that, hey, you know, open your eyes. Is it beneficial for all? No, maybe it's just beneficial for her and maybe beneficial for the young man, like that. But Bhagavatam and the scriptures give you information which is for the benefit of everybody. It is there, but we don't have the receptive power. Why? Because can't engage the mind. I have got other things to think of. I have other desires that have to be fulfilled. So I want to go there. And I falsely think that, you know, those things are for my welfare. Those are the things that are really the right things to do. These are the cool things for us to do. Right? And this is for my welfare. For example, a young kid, a teenager might think that smoking is a good thing. It makes them look smart, right? They can dangle a little cigarette from the side of their lips and drive with one hand, car with one hand. They can do that. And they think, oh, this is fantastic, right? It's not for the welfare. They don't know. They don't have knowledge. So, yeah, it depends on the receptive power. And so Yudhishthira Maharaj had done these Ashwamedha Yagyas. And what does he tell about? What does Prabhupada tell us about Ashwamedha Yagya and Yudhishthir in particular? And what does he tell us about Indra?
That even
That
though
is,
Indra did 100 sacrifices and Yudhishthir did only 3, but because he was a pure devotee of the Lord, it it didn't matter whether he did 3 or 100.
100, right? So here's a very interesting thing that we talked about. Remember a few months ago, we had this nice game in the class where we were talking about the opulences of the Lord. Remember?
Aishwaryasya
Somebody was Aishwarasya.
Samagrasya.
Yes, yes. You have memorized that?
Yeah,
Tell us. Do you remember?
yeah.
Okay.
Aishwaryasya Samagrasya Viryasya Yasasa Shriya Jnana Vairagya Yoschaiva Sharnam Bhaga Itinganam.
Very nice. So Shadangam.
Sharan.
So Shad 6, yeah. So and we each one of us took something, right? Somebody became Yasha, somebody became Ashwarya, and things like that, right? Do you remember who you were?
Yeah, I was Shriya.
Yeah, there you go. Right. So we were talking about so there we also talked about the fame, right? And we said Lord is the all famous. Nobody's more famous than the Lord, right? So who is really famous in this world? And you have to look at the chartbusters, blockbusters, New York bestsellers, and things like that. I mean, how long is that fame for people, right? How long does a Bollywood song last on its, you know, whatever the rating are there? Maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks,
Till
max,
any other
right?
yeah. And basically till the, anything else comes up.
Yes, till the next one comes up, right? How famous is a heroine? For how many years does a hero last,
Yeah.
right? They're all Shanbhangur, right? Ephemeral, they're short-lived. All these kinds of glories are short-lived. People don't remember, right? So there can be famous, there can be very famous king and King Louis the 14th. We were forced to read about it because we were doing history and things like that. But then who remembers them? But 2000 years ago, Jesus Christ came. People still remember him, right?
Everybody
Right. So the best kind of a fame is to be known as a devotee of the Lord. That is the best fame that you can aim for in life. Not that I'm a king, not that I'm beauty, because beauty is one thing that just goes away with time in this material world. Everything loses its beauty, right? Unless, you transcendentalize it. You transcendentalize it and then the beauty increases, right? I mean, you see some of the saints, right? They're old, but they look so beautiful. Why? Because they are linked with the Lord. They are linked with somebody, they're associating with somebody who is the most beautiful. So what's going to happen to you? You're going to get those qualities like that from there. So that is the fame. So these Ashwamedh yagyas, right? These Ashwamedh yagyas were performed, right? So any idea as to um, how much do you think it would have cost? How long is Ashwamedh yagya? How many days? 1 day, 7 days?
How long?
Mm,
What?
Actually, it takes quite a lot of time. It can be 1 year also.
It can be
What is the question again?
how long is
Because the
how long
horse
is
has to go across the whole.
the horse has to go across where? Good.
Across different states, right, where they want to establish their power or authority.
Yeah. So Ashwamedh yagya goes around the world. The horse goes
Yes.
around the world.
Yeah.
It takes about a year, right? And what happens? So what's the deal with the Ashwamedh yagya? So it's meant for the reputation of the king, right? And it brings opulence to the king. And how does it bring opulence to the king? So the horse goes to another kingdom, and then what happens there?
Mother, sometimes what happens, the horse goes around, and on the way, if it is caught by, like in Ramayan, Love Kush had caught the horse, and Hanumanji had to face them, and then Lakshman came, and then this is how the whole Ramayan goes about. So this any king can catch hold of the horse, and then he has to fight with him to get him back and then go ahead.
Okay, so the king goes on the Ashwamedh yagya. The king follows the horse.
No, no matter. It is no. It's not like
Okay, good. So
the king has to. Uh,
who follows the horse?
who follows?
The soldiers, right, of the
So
army.
the army, right? Okay. So there's an army, obviously, right? Because if this army has to fight that other king, right? So there'll be a war all over. So they'll be going. Either the king says, "Okay, the horse has come. I'm not in a position to fight, and so I will acquiesce," which basically means that I'm telling the other king that I will give you a portion of my, earnings. I will give you that money, right? So that's how it brings opulence to the one who has performed the yajna properly. And if they or either you acquiesce and say yes, I agree to your sovereignty over me, or you put up a fight. So when you put up a fight, then the king who's having the Ashwamedha yajna also has to fight, and he won't be fighting because he'll be sitting in the yajna. So his army will fight. So now you imagine that the whole army is going all over the world. And what are the things which are there in an army? Chapter 1, Bhagavad Gita. Shana, tell us the army background. Tell us, Madhuri.
Mataji, the soldiers are there, and you see, on those days, many chariots were there, horses were there, elephants were there, camels were there. So many, you see, kinds of beings are there to fight, and with all the shastras, all the. You see,
Right. So you see, when this army is going there, not only do you need the soldiers, but you also need the soldiers' paraphernalia, as you mentioned, chariots, etc., etc., etc. You need animals, etc., etc., etc. But then you also need people who will be taking care of these soldiers, taking care of these animals. Then people who will be blowing their trumpets and bugle drums and
yeah.
going to be and all that, right? So it's not just the soldiers; a whole full entourage that goes, and somebody has to cook food for them. So they are cooks also,
Yes.
right? And of course, so Komal Radhe Mataji, there'll be people who chop the vegetables also. She has vegetable chopping department. That's why I'm bringing this up, and she does a fantastic job. Um, so, um, so all this requires a lot of money. There's a lot of money spent. So to complete Ashwamedha Yagya, you need billions of dollars, millions of dollars, billions like that. is the amount of money that you need. And once after the 1 year, then when the horse has crossed all over, then it comes back, and then the horse is sacrificed, and it gets a human body in the next life. So that is why that kind of a sacrifice is recommended, but not in Kali Yuga. Sacrifices of any type are absolutely banned in Kali Yuga. The only sacrifice that you can do, only yagya that you can do, is Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare
Chanting.
Rama, Hare Rama, Rama
Rama,
Rama,
Ram, Ram.
Hare Hare. That's the only yagya.
Mataji, Lavakushas also did the same thing. No? They captured it. When Rama was doing, and Rama has to go and fight.
Right, yeah. So talking about Ashwamedha Yagya, and they also said that, they were comparing that to Indra, right? And for Indra, they said that Indra had done 100 Ashwamedha sacrifices. So it's of significance here because Indra is also a soul like you and I, and anybody can be elevated to that position. It's just a post you can apply. You can study for that post and do whatever is required to get that post, and you will get it in due course of time, right? So for example, to be elevated to the position of Brahma, right, who lives on this material world, on the topmost material planet, to be elevated to that position, you need to be following and complete varna ashram dharma, right? So wherever, whichever ashram and whichever varna you're born into, you need to be completely following that 100% without any, for 100 lives. So for 100 lives, you are able to perform and live your life according completely and properly according to the Varnashram Dharma. Then you become entitled to become Brahma. So you will become Brahma either in this universe or some other universe. So that will be arranged for you.
It's a hard job.
And similarly for I'm hearing some noises in the background. Can you all mute yourself? So similarly, to be elevated to the post of Indra, to be elevated to the post of Indra, you also need to do 100 Ashwamedha Yagyas, right? You need to do that. So now in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a very interesting section in the 4th canto. It comes where Prithu Maharaj, right? So Prithu Maharaj was also trying to do 100 Ashwamedha Yagyas as Indra had done. And because of doing 100 Ashwamedha Yaga, Indra was promoted and he became the king of the heavenly planets, like that. So who is Prithu Maharaj? So Prithu Maharaj is the son of Manu, Swayambhuva Manu. So we know Manu is the progenitor of mankind. From Manu, all the species of human beings come, right? So Manu is there in the beginning of creation. And so Swayambhuva Manu was there in the beginning, where we needed somebody to create all these bodies so that the Jiva souls could occupy these bodies. So Swayambhuva Manu had 5 children, right? He had 5 kids, and 3 of them were daughters and 2 were sons. So the 3 daughters you remember as pad. Remember this word pad, P-A-D, pad, right? Letter pad, writing pad, like that. So P stands for Prasuti, A stands for Akuti, and D stands for Devahuti. So 3 daughters, and then 2 sons, Uttanpad and Priyavata. We'll focus on Uttanpad because from Uttanpad, we had Dhruv Maharaj. Dhruv Maharaj was Uttanpad's son. And then in Dhruv Maharaj's lineage, we get this king known as Prithu, who was Shaktiyavesh Avatar, which means he was a soul like us, but he was empowered by the Lord to do some fantastic things. So this Prithu Maharaj sat down and he wanted to do Ashwamedha Yagya 100. So 1 was over, 2 were over, 3 was done, 4, 5, 6, 99 yagyas were successfully completed. And then he was about to finish the 100th yagya. So again, the horse was let loose and, was supposed to, go all over the place, did that and came back. And now the horse is ready to be sacrificed. So the moment the horse is sacrificed, then 100th yagya is completely done. And then Prithu Maharaj is now entitled to become Indra. Right? So all these things are being observed. All these things are being observed from the top. So you have to remember that very, very carefully, that if you live on the higher floor of an apartment, then your view is much more than that of those who live in a lower floor, right? You have a wider view and you're able to see, you're sometimes able to see inside other people's houses also, right? So remember, similarly, those who are on the higher planetary systems, they are able to see what is happening in the lower planetary system. So we might think that we are all alone and nobody's watching us, but these devtas can still watch you. They have got those powers. So we are constantly under surveillance, constantly. The candid television is there, CCTV is there watching us. So just be careful about that, because they notice things.
Such a scary thought.
Aruni, were you saying something?
No, I said that's such a scary.
It is a scary thought, yes, and it should scare us into good behavior. Right? It should scare us into good behavior, to think that sometimes you might just say, nobody's watching me, let me do this, right? But they're watching. And I mean, even more scarier, sort of scarier, is the fact that super soul is constantly there. Forget about the demigods, super souls are watching you. That's why you see sometimes when these fights are going on, or you talk about some bhakta does something very nice, and then we hear that, oh, and all the demigods showered petals from the top. Right? So why are they showering petals from the top? Because they're watching from the top. They are sitting in the balcony. They have got the good seats, the balcony seats, right? They're watching everything happening over here. So anyway, King Indra was watching all that, and he got scared. He got scared that, okay, now the moment he finishes the 100 yagyas, he's going to take over, and I won't be the Indra, and he'd become the Indra. So what Indra did was that he stole his horse. He stole the horse and ran away with it. And he came in various guises, right? In various disguises he came, and he did that 3 times, right? Once he covered the entire arena with darkness, because Indra has got mystic powers, right? So he covered everything with darkness, and nobody could see anything, and he ran away with the horse. Once he came as a sannyasi, and so when he used to run away with the horse, then Prithu Maharaj's son would follow and bring back the horse. And then again the sacrifice would start, and again Indra would come and take it away. And so he once came in the guise of a sannyasi, and then he took away the horse. And then when Prithu Maharaj's son started following him, then Indra, through his mystic powers, he vanished. He vanished into thin air, and then again he followed. Somehow he saw him, and then Prabhupada says that this thing that Indra did, now this is a long time ago, this thing that Indra did of impersonating as a sannyasi, when he was not a sannyasi, but he put on the garb of a sannyasi. This is the beginning of what is known as up-sampradaya. So there is sampradaya, lineage that comes from Krishna proper. Everybody is a proper guru disciple that way. But apa-sampradaya is when somebody is there starting a lineage where you are posing to be something that you are not. And we see the manifestation of that a lot in Kali Yuga now, right? Where we see so many people disguised as sannyasis, but they are actually not sannyasis. Their intentions are something very, very different. So
Happen. I'm sorry. Can I say something?
yeah.
If these things happen in Indra's level, like that stealing and other things, where after all human beings, it's happening in Kali Yuga. So what is that we can think about, Mataji?
This is something very important for you to think about, and that is why they say the middle planetary systems are the best place to live. Why? Because in the upper planetary systems and in the lower planetary systems, both, there are 14 planetary systems, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So Varshana Mataji, the 14 planetary systems, they come from which Vishnu?
Karnadaksai.
No, question is for Varshana Mataji. She will answer, let her answer. So from which Vishnu do the 14 planetary systems come? What's the name of that Vishnu? Look at your notes. You took notes that day.
Shirodakshai Vishnu.
Oh, cannot hear you.
Yes.
Tell us again. We couldn't hear you.
Shilo Dakshay Vishnu Mataji.
Eh, which one? Okay, anybody else wants to tell
Hare
us?
Krishna.
Karna
Mahavishnu.
Dakshai?
Yeah,
Garbhodakshay.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
If there's no
Garbhodakshay,
one, no.
for
If those
Sukomal
two are
Mother.
not there, Sukamla Mataji got locked out. We said no, no, and then you got locked
No,
out.
but I was waiting to tell, but she said, no, that's not true, though I knew it.
No.
I did know it.
Hare,
Then my
Hare Krishna
Shraddha Mataji said, Varshana Mataji, no, Vijay.
Yeah, so they come from Garb. Remember Garb?
Garbhodakshay.
Garb
Garbha.
means, Garb, you know, right? Garb means here in the stomach. They comes out from his stomach. The lotus flower comes out. And in the stem of the lotus flower are these 14 planetary systems, right? Yes.
Two of the things I forgot.
Mahavishnu Mataji.
No, not Mahavishnu, Mataji.
Mataji, the planets were coming from his body, his pores.
Not the planets. Universes.
Universes.
But Mataji, is
You
it
can't take away Sukomal's point. See, I gave 50 to her.
No, Sukomalji
hand
lucked out.
like that? I was raising my
Sukomalji lucked
hand.
out. When you said no to Varshana Mataji, no to me, and she lucked out. She
No,
said,
no.
oh, it might be the one.
No. There can be
I was
so
joking.
many flavors of Vishnu that there's so many ways you can get wrong. Okay. Yeah.
But Shraddha Mataji, do we have control over which planetary system we would go to?
Yeah, very good question. I was just going to come to that, right? So, so there are these 14 planetary systems.
Mataji, Hare Krishna Mataji. I was disconnected in between, could not hear you at all.
I didn't speak anything substantial.
No, there was some discussion was going on. So that
nothing. It was not substantial discussion. I'm telling you something now. So listen to that. Yeah.
Okay.
So there are 14 planetary systems, and they are in the stem of that lotus, right? That's what Shastras tell us. And so there are 14. We are in the middle, right? So there are 6 above us. And there are
Seventh, I think.
7 below us, right? So like that. So I may be wrong by one figure. I don't remember. So the middle planetary systems where we are the best planetary systems for doing devotional service. Okay. Now on the upper planetary system, listen, on the upper planetary system also, there are devotees. Indra is a devotee. You have to be a devotee of the Lord. He has done Ashwamedha Yagya. So he was worshipping and sacrificing things for Vishnu. It's not that he didn't do that. He's pursuing devotional service, but you also have that desire to manage. For example, a devotee might have a desire to become a temple president, right? A GBC. Another devotee might not have the desire. So everybody, this world is situated on desire. Of course, there are some cases you might not have the desire to become a temple president, and that position could be thrust upon you by the seniors saying that, you please take up this task. And we find situations like that in Srimad Bhagavatam also, where Uttanpad's brother, Priyavrata, did not want to rule the world at all. He was nicely sitting with his with Narad Muni, and Narad Muni was telling him all the ways on how you should take sannyas and things like that. But then Brahma came and said, "No, you have to become the king, and I want you to do that." So he listened to he obeyed the order instructions of the superior, and then he ruled the world. So like that. So it's because of desire. So these devotees can get elevated to a higher planets, and then or sometimes Lord will just ask them to take that responsibility. Either ways, they are there. Now the problem with these upper planetary systems is that there is so much of opulence, and you have got so much of power, and the misery is much less. There is misery there, but it is much less misery, right? Even in this on this planet Earth, there are some continents where there is more misery, and there are some there where there is less misery, right? So on the upper planetary system, because of so much of opulence being there, and lack of misery, the chances that you will think of God are minimized. Okay, that's the upper planetary systems.
Oh,
In the lower planetary systems, actually, you'll be very surprised when we talk about patal lok, rasatal, talatal,
total.
atalatal, sutal, right, like that, right? So those are planetary systems which are below us. They are lower, and so they are actually more opulent than the heavenly planets above us. Like we
Oh,
are in the middle. So there is opulence on the planets above, and there is opulence in the planets below us also. Below us also, there is a lot of opulence. The difference between the upper planetary, the heavens above, and the heavens below us is the lack of Krishna consciousness or presence of Krishna consciousness. So people who are in the upper planetary systems, they are they are conscious of God. They might not remember him all the time, or might have slipped here and there, but they are devotees of the Lord. And in the lower planetary system, they are not devotees of the Lord, but they have all the opulence. They enjoy, right? They enjoy. They have no idea of, they don't even think of death like that. And there are several more things. So in both the planetary systems, what happens is that because of the opulence which is there and your inherent lack of a reason to rely on God, so in that case, there's a chance not to think about God. But in the middle planetary system, you have got the right amount of misery. That's dukhalayam ashashvatam. So don't think that these miseries are for no cause at all. Actually, miseries are good. And we will hear that in Kunti Maharani's prayers when she says that, Vipada sadhu tat satvat, tat tat jagat guru, bhavato darshanam yatsyat, apunar bhava darshanam. So she says that it is better.
It's better, I get
She
it.
gives a whole list of miseries she went through, right? Her daughter-in-law being, treated so badly, her house being set on fire, they had to go and live in the forest. She lists all that, and then he says, "But it was good, Krishna, because when I was going through these miserable situations, I remembered you." And that is what we have to do. The rules of Krishna, the two rules of devotional service is always remember Krishna, rule number one, and rule number two is never forget him. And all other rules are servants of these two rules. All the rules that you have, we are servants of these two rules, right? So she's happy. So in this middle planetary systems, it is actually good. The demigods actually pray to be born in the middle planetary system and in the Kali Yuga. Why? Because for all the faults that Kali Yuga has, right? So many faults are there. Prana alpayusha sabhya, right? Asmin yuge jana, manda sumanda matyo, madha bhagya upadcha, right? So we are short-lived, we are quarrelsome, we are lazy, we are misguided, we are unlucky, and always disturbed, right? Like that. So all these bad things are there in the Kali Yuga for us. But the good thing is that just by doing the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, just by taking the names of the Lord in a short period of time, like 100 years, you can go back to Godhead, right? It's not even 100 years now for us. Who lives for 100 these days, right? So it's very, very important to understand that and to understand that the miseries that we get in our lives are not, I mean, they are there, the karmic reactions and all that, but every misery that we undergo is an opportunity for us to think about God, to think about Krishna, because that is what we do. We are enjoyers. So when we're enjoying, there'll be a tendency not to think about Krishna and just to focus on the enjoyment. But when we are in trouble, something is biting our, thigh, then you're like, Krishna, like that. So now comes the question that do I have a control on where I'm going to take birth? Yes and no, both, right? So why yes and no, or both? The number one is that
Good karma.
one, you have to, it, number one, you have to first understand that you might not just be born as a human being. We could be born as an animal also in our next life. So what happens is that there's a whole lot of planning that goes before you get a particular body, because you will get a particular body to enjoy your fruits, you will get a particular body to suffer your karmas and all that, and there's an equal and opposite reaction. So maybe that other person also has to be born. So it's a whole lot of operational research that goes on, and Brahma does a good job of it, right? They take care of this in this universe. So one is that you could be born as an animal. Now the good news is that in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, 40th verse, it says neha kramo nasusti pratyavayana vidyate swalpasya api dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. So he says that even if you do this much of devotional service, then you will be relieved of the biggest fear in this material world. And remember, the biggest fear for a devotee in the material world, the biggest fear for a devotee in the material world is not death. The biggest
No.
fear for a devotee is to be born as an animal in the next life, because in that body, you is very, very, very difficult to do devotional service,
Service.
right? So that is the first thing. But the thing is that if you are a devotee, if you're a devotee of the Lord, the Shastras tell us, if you're a devotee of the Lord, if you take the name of Hare Krishna even once, right? In Chaitanya Charitamrita, you hear that like that. So, you know, your chances of getting a better situation in your next life are heightened up, right? And also, if you are a devotee in the Bhagavatam, there are the hellish planets which are described, and which are like mind-boggling punishments. But it also says, and it's a very big assurance for all of us. It says that if you are a devotee of the Lord, you don't go to the hellish planets. So all the more reason for you to do devotional service properly, so that you don't have to go there. And if you want to know more about hellish planets, fifth canto of Bhagavatam, chapter 26 will tell you that everything there. So now, for the devotee, it's like that. Now, can I control where I'm going to go? Which planet am I going to be born in my next life? Again, there are various things that happen. For example, when ladies are very much dedicated towards their husbands, and in the old days, what used to happen, that when the husband died, the wife would also climb on the funeral pyre and
Same.
be with him, right? So where would she go? She would go to the same planet as the husband went. So this is purely a materialistic thing. I like my husband so much; it's a bodily relationship, and even after death, I want to follow him. And you will do the same thing there also, right?
If
So
husband is a devotee, then they are lucky.
yes, if the husband is a devotee, then you are
They're
lucky,
lucky.
right? So this thing about climbing on the funeral pyre and following my husband, you have to understand that what exactly does it mean? It's not a great thing to become a sati for no reason for anybody. You will do that only. It is better to stay back in this world, in this world, and pursue devotional service.
And do devotional
That's true.
service.
Yeah,
That's
that's
true.
better because you're a soul. What is a husband? Another soul. You just were brought together for
Even
something.
husbands won't like Mataji.
There you go.
You want to go with me there also?
There you go. Yeah.
They might say.
Yeah. That's one way. Yes, that's one way that people would like to control where they go, right?
It's true.
And then also in Bhagavad Gita, it says yam yam vapi smaran bhamam tajyatyante kalevaram yam tam tam evati konteya sada tad bhava bhavata. Whatever you consciousness that you have at the time of your death, you will become that. Can you give me an example really quickly from the Shastras? Somebody thought of something at the death and became that.
Bharat Maharaj.
Bharat Maharaj for
Bharat,
2 points.
Bharat,
And what did he become?
Dear.
A deer.
dear.
In his next life, right? So that is one way. And then he also says, yanti deva vrita devan, pritrin yanti pritivita, bhutani yanti bhuteja, yanti majyadi no pimam. So he says, those who worship the ghost go to the planet of the ghosts. Those who worship the ancestors will go to the worship of ancestors, right? And those who worship the devtas will go to the planet of the devtas. But those who worship me will come to me.
Will come to
This is
me.
also
Come
this is
to
also
me.
one way you control where you are going to go, right? Then another thing that people do is that most of the people are not even worried. They don't even know that there's a life after death, that there is reincarnation and things like that. So they are usually like, okay, this is the only chance for me to enjoy. So by hook or by crook, I have to enjoy. And somehow or the other, even if old age is descending on me, even if my body is becoming incapable of enjoying these things, but the desire is still strong. So I'd like to get a nose job done. I'll have to get the wrinkles removed from my face so that I look young and I enjoy some more, like that. So they are making adjustments in this life. And then in the end, death cheats them of everything. They have to die. When the Yamdutas arrive, they have to leave the body, right? Or like that, or Vishnu Dutas, depending on the case. So they are just focused on that. But then there are some who are smart. They have understood that there is life after death, and they now are so smart and so far-sighted that they also want to take care of that other life. So then they will do yajnas, and they will make sure that they have a son who can do Shraddha ceremony for them when they're gone, so that their stay in the heavenly planets will be done. So Trevidyamam Som Paput Papa Yagyerishva Swargatim Prarthayante. So in the ninth chapter, he says that people will perform certain Vedic rituals so that in after death they are born in higher and heavenly planetary system. Tetam bhuktva sargulokam vishalam shine punye martilokam vishanti. So then they go there because of the pious credits. They got some bank balance. They are elevated to a higher planetary system where they enjoy. But how do they enjoy? For every enjoyment that they are achieving there, they have to take out something from their pocket and give away. Whatever sukriti they had got, they have to give it away. Shine punya, all the punya karma that they have got gets exhausted when you enjoy it. And Shine Punya, once it becomes diminished, Sheen, and comes to zero, you are kicked out of the heavenly system and you are down here in this middle planetary system again, right? So, yes, can you have control on where you go? Yes, you can do that. But the big question is, would you want to do that? After I described what the higher heavenly planets are and what the lower heavenly planets below are, you would not want to go to either of the two places. You would not want to go there because there are constant disturbances. I mean, why do you think there are these heavenly damsels there in the heavenly planets and the apsaras and all that, right? They will deviate you. Similarly, in the lower planetary systems, also there are three types of women. Um, they are listed in Bhagavatam. I'm forgetting their names, but they are Kamini and like that, and they will just they will just capture you and take you away from devotional service like that. So um, a bhakta's mood is, so what should the bhakta do? Should the bhakta start desiring that I just be born here? Bhakta doesn't even want that. The bhakta is so surrendered to the Lord. He says that, wherever you put me,
Wherever you put me.
right? Just give me that benediction that I will continue to do your devotional service. Like Prahlad Maharaj was born in the family of demons, but he still continued his devotional service. That's all we want. That's all we should want. Whether it's heavenly planet, whether you put me in this planet, whether you leave me here, whatever you do, just let me remember you, O Lord, and let me not forget you. And as I had predicted, I see Shruti Priya Mataji is on Zoom. She was on Facebook a little while ago, and I said that she won't be able to contain herself and she'll jump here. So here she is. So with that, should we conclude?
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Yes.
Mataji, we do say that if we get the body of animal, yes, we do not have the intelligence to think and do all that. But Mataji, I had a dog long ago, and this that she dog, she whenever I used to read Ramayana or Bhagavad Gita or whatever I did or used to sit for meditation, this dog used to come and sit next to me and I mean listen to it, listen to the katha, and then the moment katha used to get over, she used to go away.
And this is
So
exactly,
I was
yes, and this is exactly what I was saying. The devotee says, I don't care. Give me devotional service. So then Krishna will put you, even if you, because of your karma, even if one has to get a dog body, they will put that dog in a family where Bhagavatam and Ramayana and these kind of scriptures are being recited. Do you see now, Vrishana Mataji, how these all works? How I was saying it's a difficult thing, but this is how Krishna organizes all that. It's all part of the big master plan. I mean, I
and
remember, Sukomal Rate Mataji can attest to that, um, Hansa Priya Mataji had a dog. His name was Yogi. And Yogi would go outside with her for a walk, and as soon as he came back in, he would rush towards the room where
Temple.
the temple room and offer obeisances. I've seen it with my own eyes. Yeah. So they do that. Yeah. So good point that you bring in, Vaishana Mataji. So ama janmani janmani ishware, right? What do I want? Bhakti ahetuki tvai. Bhavatat bhakti ahetuki tvai. In the Shikshastakam, that is what the prayer is. Right? Na janam na dhanam na sundarim. I don't want any of those things. All that I want is your devotional service. And why not? Look at us. How much we are enjoying devotional service.
It's true.
This is the real enjoyment. So it's not that devotees don't enjoy
They
it.
didn't want you to go back,
Yeah,
go home.
the happiness comes from inside. The moment you start to seek happiness from outside, you'll be miserable. The moment you wait and think that somebody is going to write me a nice text and that's going to make me happy, we'll be miserable because the text will not come or a contrary text will come. Right? So never look for things outside. There's a lot of happiness inside us. And it comes from you from inside. Nobody has to, nobody can give it to you
Can I
from
ask a question?
Yes, I have 9 minutes before my meeting for the office starts, but I'll try to answer you. If not, we'll
Uh,
pick up here tomorrow.
okay, Mataji.
Go ahead.
So we have Brahma. There are multiple Brahmas, right?
Hmm.
And multiple universes.
Hmm.
So, like his son was Swambhuva Manu. So, in another universe, there's another Brahma. He also has 4 kids and 3 girls, and Swambhuva Manu is one of the son like that.
Yeah, that's a question a lot of people ask, but I don't have scriptural evidence to support and say that it's the exact replica, because Brahma himself is also not a replica, and the universes also are not replicas of each other. Some universes are more complex than our universes. Our universe is a little bit complex because you see, our Brahma has got 4 heads, right? So to manage this kind of a universe that you see now, 1 billion miles in width and so much and so forth, you need that kind of intelligence, like the current Brahma that we have. But in some universes, the Brahmas are shown with millions of heads. So those universes are very, very complicated, right? So in those universes, do we have a Manu? How big the Manu is? Does he have only 4 or he needs to have more because of the complexity of the universe? I have not come across Shastra to support your evidence on that. But all that we know is that there are varieties of Brahmas with different complexities, and universes also have different complexities in them. Usually, from what I've heard others say, usually we tend to stay in the same universe, usually, unless, for certain reasons, we have to go to another, um, take birth in another universe. For example, sometimes what happens is that when you are liberated and completely going back to Godhead to participate in Krishna's Leela, you have to be trained in doing that. And how do you train for that in doing that? That you will go and you will be born in a place where Krishna is performing the Bhama Leela, the Leelas on this planet, right? On this in this universe. So wherever Krishna is performing his pastimes, you'll go there and you'll be born as something, a cow or whatever. And you will first practice it here, and then at the time of death, then you will go to Goloka and continue to perform the same service there in Goloka also. So when such a situation arises, it could happen that we are leaving the body now and we have to undergo that training, but Krishna is not here. He's performing his pastime in some other universe. So at that time he could be born in some other universe also, right? But it doesn't matter because Krishna makes you forget everything, right? Which universe you were born
I'm
earlier.
forgetting even now, Mataji. I'm, I don't know, today I didn't feel that good.
Mataji, another
Mataji, I just have a question about the universe. When you say universe, do you mean the planetary system with 14 planets, or several planetary systems like that are contained within one universe?
Yeah, so one universe has got almost half of the universe is filled with water. It is called Garbhodak Ocean. And on that ocean is lying a Vishnu. And from the navel of that Vishnu sprouts a lotus. And in the stem of that lotus are 14 planetary systems, and which could be billions of planets in themselves. The sun and the moon and the stars, they all are there. And on the top of that stem is a lotus, and where Brahma lives.
Brahma lives.
So that is Brahma's abode. Now, just as you have an
Garbha.
abode and you also have a place where you go and work, and you could be working, somebody could be having multiple offices, right? Some people have got such high positions that they have multiple offices in the city. So there's a place where a person lives, and there could be multiple places where a person works. So similarly, in this universe also, Brahma lives on the top, that's his abode, and then he also has got offices within the stem of that universe. Similarly,
Wow.
Indra and all these places they have got, it's a pretty complex, complicated system. So all
Very,
this,
very difficult to understand, Mataji.
a good not.
Wait, so when you say 14 planetary systems, so each planetary system has got several
Millions,
many
millions, yeah, millions of them. Yeah.
so in the 14 planetary systems, which system are we in?
Middle.
Middle one.
Uh-huh. So like the 7th planetary system.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And in the 7th planetary system, there are
Millions.
several levels of planets. And where do we come in that hierarchy?
No, 7th one will be all the same, right? So sort of all the same, but not exactly all the same. Even there are gradations. There are some which are more opulent. There are some which are less opulent than us, like that. But they are still generally the same in the sense that misery, etc., will be there, right? And but people will be worshipping wherever they are in this middle planetary system, which is also known as Bhumandal. So in this Bhumandal system, people are generally worshipping the Lord. But if you go to Patals, the lower planetary systems, people are not worshipping. They are generally. And in the upper planetary system, yes, they are devotees of the Lord, but might not be so much engaged, like in Nalkover, right? The two, they were the sun, they were demigods, right? What were they doing? They were indulging till Narad Muni cursed them, and then they became the trees, right? Arjuna tree. So our planetary system is the middle one, has got the characteristic of this planetary system is that there will be miseries, and we said for good. And then even within this 14 planet, within this planetary system, the Bhumandal, there are gradations of opulence. Even
It would be helpful if we could see a chart or like some kind of chart or graph or something, that
Yeah,
would show
chart. I think
arrows
the
from
chart is there.
there are many
Brahma.
yeah, there are many but there are many charts over there, right? There are many charts, and it can be mind boggling. And I have read about these
Very difficult.
systems in my previous lessons. A couple of months ago I have talked about heavenly planets also. But what the general advice for the devotee is that don't dwell too much in trying to understand this material world. Rather spend your time in trying to understand how do I get out of it. Wherever I am, learn that trick.
Correct.
Get out. That's devotional.
Like this COVID, Mataji. The more and more we know, it's so much scary.
Yeah.
So best thing is we didn't be.
Yeah. Okay. I have 2
Hare,
minutes.
yeah,
Varshana
yeah.
tomorrow. Varshana tomorrow.
Okay,
I
okay,
have to
okay.
go for my I have to go for my work is starting.
Sure.
We won't let you,
Okay.
Mataji.
You come and join
Hare
us. You
Krishna.
work. You do some of my work.
Oh, I cannot do.
All right. Thank you
Here
so much.
itself, my brain is not working.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your interactive
Thank you, Shraddha
session, and
Thank you
also
very
for your
much.
reflections and your questions. They make it so much more lively.
Thanks for the class, Mataji.
And tomorrow we're going to meet, and so
6
Komal,
o'clock.
yeah, tomorrow is 6 o'clock because it's Saturday and we start a little early.
Yeah.
Vanchikalpatarubhyascha
Sakripa sindhobhyev cha patitanam
pavanebhyo
bhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna to everybody.
Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna.
Krishna.
Dandavat
those who are
pranams.
on the
Hare Krishna.
Facebook.
Hare Krishna.
Dandavat
Hare
pranams to
Krishna
all of
to
you.
everybody. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Nice to see you.